and welcome to episode 2 of the Private Cloud Café. As you can see, we're in a kind of a different setting. The previous episode we recorded in the morning, which means that in the cafe we had coffee and we had a good coffee chat. But in this episode of the Private Cloud Café, we're in the afternoon, which means we have beer, we have Dutch cuisine called bitterballs. And in this episode, I have Thom Vessies as our guest. Thom, welcome.
I'm happy I'm in this version actually.
Good. Well, I hope you enjoy your beer.
Very much.
Could you briefly explain what your role is with ITQ?
Yes, definitely. So my role is I'm responsible as a chief commercial officer for the sales and marketing organization within ITQ. I've been working now with ITQ for almost 8 years, and I'm in this role for the last 2 years now. Before that role, I was sales manager, but also as an account manager, talking a lot to our customers in healthcare, in many other different, let's say, industries. And that's still what I love to do, actually, also in my work. So besides from the fact that we are building the organization to be ready for the next step, I'd love to talk to customers and hear what their concerns are, what are they heading to also understand where the market is going and how we can support them the best.
So I already have a couple of questions. First, what means that next step?
Mm-hmm.
So you mentioned the next step.
For ITQ or for
what is that next step?
Well, for ITQ, it means that we basically on two sides. So on the one hand, you see that we, over the last years, we've been growing like geographically, so to multiple regions. So it means like if you're internationally doing business, your organization is totally different than when you do that only national. So that's one. So we are further building our organization when it comes to sales and marketing related to how do you do international business and what is needed to support each other also in there. Second thing, for also customers, of course, to continuously challenge ourselves. Like what's next? That's our slogan. Like what's the next step also that we want to take with customers, and where do we also need to, invest in, but also invest in knowledge. In terms to be able to support customers on the long run, which is very much related, I think, to the topic also today, private cloud, public cloud, which options do customers make, why, what is important for them, how can we translate that to our solutions, to our knowledge that we bring to customers, and so on.
Yeah, so that's kind of the focus area. Like what's next? This is actually what's next for a customer, like the transition to a private cloud and everything that kind of comes together.
Yeah.
I also have a different question, and that's not about the topic of today, but the kind of looking at your background. So you've been with ITQ for almost 8 years, or a little over 8 years.
Yeah.
You have a huge background in sales and in kind of customer relations and the customer interaction, but you also came from like different industries, right? So I know that you have a passion for cars, and that's also kind of where your background is. So do you see kind of aspects of that industry and the industry that we are currently working in, or the different types of industries that you can relate to each other?
That's a very good question, actually. I think it's like what I saw in the automotive industry, for example, is that it's quite a slow market when it comes to innovation, for example. You see that the market was moving slowly. What you see, for example, now in Germany, when you look at all the brands in Germany, Audi, Volkswagen Group, and so on, they have a difficult time. Why? Because they have been not that innovative, let's say, over the last years, and China is getting better. So what you see at the moment in the streets is that Chinese cars are getting more popular in regards to German cars, for example. For me, that was a reason to, let's say, quit in the automotive industry and choose for an industry that is actually like investing in the innovation of companies. What I saw is that so the similarity in this is that I think like the innovation of IT is so important to drive business success. So if you don't invest in your IT, and don't invest in what does your IT mean for your business, then you're lacking. And I think that's for me the most important thing that I've seen. That was for me a reason to quit the automotive, start in the IT. And I think that IT nowadays in companies is something that, like, no matter what company you are, IT is important, right?
Yeah.
So it's not a question if IT has a role in a company. It's in every company.
Yeah, it's funny. I had a conversation today with a colleague specifically around this, and we're slowly seeing that more companies that didn't used to be an IT company are now becoming an IT company. Like the majority of employees are now focusing on IT, and we're seeing that more and more because innovation can make a difference.
Yeah, definitely.
Now, before we dive into today's topic, which is kind of business agility and competitive advantage through private cloud, I want to kind of get your opinion on some things. So we're going to use our rapid fire questions to see what your opinion is on some topics.
Bring it on.
Are you ready?
Yeah, of course.
Awesome. So first one, private cloud, agility booster or agility blocker?
Both.
You have to pick. You have to pick
Blocker.
one. A blocker. Okay.
Yeah.
Competitive advantage, faster technology or smarter processes?
Smarter processes.
Customer experience, driven by cloud technology or organizational culture?
Culture.
Cloud adoption, is it IT-led or business-led?
Business-led.
And the last one, investment in cloud, is it a technical necessity or strategic advantage?
Good. Strategic advantage.
Okay.
Yeah.
So let's start with the first one, agility booster or agility blocker. You had to. You didn't want to choose. Why?
Yeah, because it is both, and I choose in the end the blocker because I think that's how it is at a lot of customers that I currently see. So if I look to a lot of discussions that I have and talks that I have and customer situations, I think that customers are mostly using their private cloud as like their data centers in the past, and not like a real private cloud. Like a private cloud can support you in doing your business outcomes, let's say. So I think at the moment for a lot of customers it is a blocker because they don't use it in a way that I think private cloud can support their business. I think that's also a reason why in the end a lot of CIOs and a lot of IT managers chose to go to public cloud, because in the end they saw like IT is slow. I have to wait for a long time on innovations. We have to maintain everything ourselves. Those cycles with buying hardware and so on is a bit of a struggle for a lot of companies. So I think at the moment it is on a lot of customers a blocker, and I love that, to be honest, because it is also in our how do you say that, like in our interest, but also in our belief to have a discussion with those customers, like what can it add if you do it different.
Yeah.
So that's also I think the second half of the question. So it definitely can be what was it, enabler or supporter?
Yeah, a booster or a
booster.
blocker.
Yeah, we see that it is a booster because we see that customers that use it successfully, it is definitely a booster. And I think when you go to when you look at important aspects of running your private cloud, when it comes to control, the control, the security, speed, cost, I think in the end private cloud has a lot to offer on those aspects. And if you put it in well, then I think you can definitely see it as a booster.
So do you think there's a relation between booster or blocker and the customer experience side of things, so driven by cloud tech or organizational culture? So kind of like, if I would rephrase the question, I'm going to make it really specific. Do you think the organizational culture and the people and process aspect of it are due to the fact that it could be a blocker or can be a booster?
Yeah, definitely both. But what we see as a blocker, for example, So when you look at the traditional IT environments, and some of the customers are still in a very traditional mode, to be honest, then you see really that the IT is very siloed still. So you have a networking team, you have a storage team, you have different teams. And they mostly love what they do.
Yeah.
But it's also very much repetitive tasks that they are also doing. Yeah, when you're connecting or when you're talking with a customer about taking those silos away, when you're talking about self-service, automation, that kind of outcomes, then of course the first part of the transition is not about the technical stuff, it's about the people stuff, because people need to change. If you're a network engineer and you love to be concerned with firewall rules, and all of a sudden, let's say you can automate that, or you can do it in a different way so that you as an engineer can do different things, that is an opportunity, but of course also a risk, because he thinks like, hey, this was my work, so what I'm going to do now? And this is a known story, of course. This is not new.
Yeah, and that's what immediately comes in mind. I know the first engagement I was involved in with ITQ, that was still the pre-vCEN era, and we had like storage teams that suddenly, when vCEN came out and software-defined storage came out, that suddenly had to collaborate and eventually got kind of consolidated into the virtualization team as a logical result. Yeah, and we're now seeing the same thing happening again.
Yeah, still happening, I think.
Yeah,
still happening. So I think a lot of companies struggle also to overcome that situation, and that's a pity, I think, because there is so much more to win. I think it's so a lot of companies and a lot of CIOs then say also to me like, okay, but that's then the reason that we went to public, because in the public it's so easy and it's just we don't have to maintain it, we don't have to have the people, blah blah blah, which is one, not always true, and two, it is maybe also not necessary if you focus on more the people process side of the transition instead of only the technology.
Yeah.
And that's the mistake that I see often happening. Like IT is so much technology driven.
Yeah.
Which is a good thing because everyone loves technology in IT. But the downside of having that is that people think that technology is then the only thing that matters. And I think that's my experience is from a lot of projects that we've done, and from a lot of conversations that I had, that you see that the projects that succeed are the projects that you integrate people process in it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's also the reason why I said on one of those other questions, like what was it, smart processes?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think that smart processes, you started about automotive. If you have a Ferrari, which is the fastest car on the road, but you don't have a driver that can find how to start the Ferrari or can drive the Ferrari, you don't have anything to the Ferrari, right? So
I really like the fact that you bring up a Ferrari, because in the previous episode with Mike, we talked about the Ferrari as well, and the context was a little bit different.
Yeah.
Because we talked about sovereignty in public cloud, and especially sovereignty with the hyperscalers, which is honestly non-existent.
No.
It's kind of the same thing as buying a Ferrari, a hybrid one, or it could be a McLaren, like a hybrid one that has a V8 or a V10 or a V12 backed up by the battery and an electrical motor, and then suddenly it's a lower emission car. Yeah. It's on paper, but it's not. It's still like a monster car, which, it's kind of like a, how do you call it? Like a facade, if you will. Yeah.
Farce.
Yeah. So So this is going to be kind of a thing in the upcoming episodes. In every single episode, would definitely take on the car analogy and try to focus on Ferrari.
Yeah, exactly.
But that's not your favorite car brand, right?
No, it's not the favorite.
Is it Aston Martin?
Yeah.
Okay. Good. So before we dive into to the rest of the interview, I think it's time to have. I'm actually gonna take a snack. Here. I think this is. I don't know. Well, it's traditional Dutch cuisine, so it's fried
Kaas
stuff
stengels.
with yeah. You have a cheese stengel. Yeah.
Yeah.
And obviously, we say that stuff like that has to swim, so it's going to be backed by a sip of beer.
That.
So, I got a series of questions, and I like to get your opinion on stuff. So
Yeah.
let's start with the first one. What's the most underestimated business advantage of moving to a private cloud?
I think predictability.
Why?
Well, look at last year and what happened over the last 12 months. So,
And what do you mean
There has
with
to be-
last year, last 12 months?
no, but so first of all, when you look to for example, cost. So one of the things that I said like is very important to a CIO is always cost. So I have a lot of talks about cost. What you've seen over the last years is that everything became more expensive in the world. So inflation for a lot of CIOs, whatever companies, if there's healthcare or like manufacturing everywhere, costs increase significant. When you talk about software, when you talk about hardware, but also like cloud bills. Everyone is of course translating those price increases into their own selling prices. At the same time, you see that a lot of budgets when it comes to IT for CIOs became stable. So the amount of, so even when the budgets are stable and not lowered down, you can buy less for that budget because all your prices went up. Making then a transition from let's say private cloud to public cloud means that in your private cloud you can way better forecast your cost for a longer time because you can absolutely sure if you plan it very well and you have a very good strategy behind it, you can be very predictable when it comes to your cost for the next 5 to 7 to maybe 10 years. I think that's very different in a public cloud situation. So I know that Francisco sometimes had talks also with some CIOs that said to their entire staff, like, okay, the one that can now say to me what the cloud bill will be next month gets a prize because nobody knew. So I think when you see, and so when you look to predictability, I think that's an important part. Second thing I think is also security, for example, or sovereignty, where you talked about, but connected to security. So when you look in the world now with the war and the things that go on in, for example, America, and the discussion around data privacy, but also security, it is a very simple difference, but in your private cloud, it's yours, or it is way more controlled. So you can also be way more sure of that it will stay like this, or that it is at least a situation that you have. Which is not being said that that Microsoft or Amazon or one of the other bigger ones is handling your data, is handling your privacy in the same way. So I think when it comes to predictability, on the long run, when you want to build a long-term strategy, I think that's one of the things that is most underestimated. It's mostly the ease or the speed that I hear that CIOs choose or companies choose to go to the public cloud. But therefore
Because
also,
I can swipe a credit card and suddenly I have a
Exactly.
service running.
Yeah, but it doesn't say anything about your predictability for the coming years.
No.
If that's your strategy.
Yeah, and one thing kind of tied to that, what we're seeing is that, like we used to see when, for instance, implementing a new application at a customer, you kind of scale that linearly. You start relatively small with the first team, and then you expand to a next team and the next team and the next team. And the scale of like how we implement the application or how we basically scale it out is quite linear.
Yeah.
But suddenly we are talking about AI. And the scale within AI applications at customers that we kind of deploy is not linear anymore. It becomes exponential.
Yeah.
So we see and I think that's one of the kind of the reasons why public cloud is popular, because you swipe a credit card, the service is running, etc.
Yeah.
But then suddenly you see cloud bills rising in a way you would not have expected upfront. And this is, I think.
But also here, predictability is a thing. So take AI.
Yeah.
So, and if you compare doing AI from a private cloud or a public cloud, and I'm, by the way, not against one of both or pro one of both. So I think every company should have a hybrid strategy in there, or almost every company, because I think when you look to workloads of those companies, it is very debatable which workloads are fitted very well for which, let's say, a platform. But when you look at AI, that went very fast all of a sudden, right? And if you want, I see a lot of companies that want to have a competitive advantage. So what do you see doing? A lot of companies are now doing customer service with AI, chatbots, but automated processes towards customers, let's say. They want to achieve a kind of competitive advantage in regards to their competitors.
Yeah.
Yeah. What if you do that in a public cloud? Then it's debatable how competitive that advantage then is. Right?
Yeah.
Do you follow me?
Certainly.
So choosing for one of the two, let's say, options that you have, or a hybrid strategy, makes you also agile. It was about agility. Make you also agile in determining, like, what is the development and how are we going to implement it, that we have really this competitive advantage, and that not the neighbor or another competitor can copy it within a week.
Yeah, and that's one of the misconceptions, right? So accelerated innovation, or the way to accelerate innovation within a customer, it's quite oftenly kind of contradictory to private cloud. Yeah. But that's not the case, right? So like you mentioned, we can actually implement private AI at customers using private cloud.
Definitely.
And AI is one of the examples, but there are more examples on how customers are actually innovated, but still use that running a private cloud.
What customers are still, I had once a customer that said to me, like, yeah, Tom, we do everything in the private cloud, because in the public cloud, what people don't realize is that there are also people working behind those labels to make sure that everything is running as it should. So exactly what we are doing. And that's what people often forget, that is actually about, like, maintaining a platform in the cloud is not going out of itself. Also people are doing it.
There was an item in the news a couple of months ago where there was, like, you have all sorts of now coding assistants, right? So you basically ask a question, you get code back. And it was an item in the news where a Indian-based code assistant, basically a website where you send in an idea, you get code back, was not AI-driven. But there were hundreds and hundreds of people behind the actual coding assistant doing all of the manual work. And sure, stuff was automated, but it was the brilliant minds of the engineers behind it that actually wrote the code based on the question that you asked. So, like you mentioned, it's not like it's not an automated machine.
No.
There's still people and still brilliant minds and engineers, etc., behind it to make it work.
Yeah, so the only question that you need to ask yourself is, do you want to do it yourself or another?
Yeah.
And if you choose, like, another can do it, then it's still a question, like, can still be a private cloud then.
Yeah.
Managed by another party. So the private cloud is also not, it's a model,
Yeah.
It's not always, like, private cloud is always being also conflicted with, it has to be an own data center, your own service on your own location. It can be on different locations managed by others, but it's still your data, it's your private cloud with your important requirements.
Yeah, and like we kind of chatted about in the rapid fire questions, there's a huge people impact to private cloud as well, right? So taking the cloud operating model as an example, which is essential when you're going to implement this. So Yeah, I think that's definitely a good point. Hey, and welcome back. As you can see, our beers have magically filled themselves. Tom, I know you as a very opinionated person, and I'd like to get your opinion on something. So, can you share a provocative opinion on why organizations are hesitant to embrace private cloud, are at risk of falling behind?
What did you say?
Provocative.
Yeah, provocative.
Oh,
I think that's very much related to actually people are a bit lazy, so organizations are a bit lazy. what I mean with that is that they take, I think, a little bit sometimes also the easy road, right? So people tend to use the easy road, and I think for a lot of organizations that meant like, okay, IT was not performing, IT is not. Is very costly, and the value of IT is not very clear. So let's lift it up, put it in the cloud, that we don't have to
And suddenly
look
all
after
problems are
anymore,
done.
and everything is solved. Yeah, and I think that is the big transition that has been made over the last 5 to 10 years. 5 years, I think, mostly. But now when it comes to data sovereignty, when it comes to security, when really the world is changing, when it comes to how you are in charge of your own company, including your own data, including everything around it. Yeah, I think those companies that made that easy decision didn't really thought of these kinds of things because it was easy and swipe a credit card and go. And that might mean that the companies that did invest in a hybrid strategy, so they became agile because they can choose different options for different workloads. I think those are the ones that looked further in their strategy. Like, what is it that can happen? What is the best place for my workloads to place where? In terms of cost, in terms of speed, agility, that kind of stuff. And yes, I see that I need actually different platforms to different use cases. And I think private cloud is still an answer to some of those use cases. Maybe not all. But
And the scenario you just kind of talked about is not unique, right? So it's not that we had a single customer who went all in for public cloud, but kind of lifted and shifted the whole thing. So they took their software-defined data center, used a software-defined data center service that lives in public cloud, and then suddenly their problem were over. And now they're kind of also debating what to do next, right? So we're having, regular conversations with customers and are engaging with customers to move their traditional workloads back to a private cloud again.
yeah.
And that's not like a unique thing, right? That's something that we see quite commonly at different customers.
But lifting up a very traditional workload from a private cloud platform or like a traditional platform, moving it to a cloud environment doesn't mean that your workload changed into a very modern workload. So, and this is but this is often what we've seen. So, like when we talk about modern applications, and how to modernize your applications, you really make use of the resources and the capabilities of a platform when you think also about how does my application look like, right? So, and I've seen so many projects or so many customer situations that there was only a focus on how do we get to the public cloud as soon as possible without thinking about what are the further implications. So a simple lift and shift, as we say in the IT industry, and the only result is that it runs in the same way. There is no added value to it. Your cost mostly increase because the cloud is being built in a different way. And it might even be that there are things out of your control because everything beneath it you cannot control anymore. So if there is an outage, you're very much in hope that it will be fixed soon, but you have no control about it. And that's often the thing I think also that is underestimated, like the control part.
Yeah.
So when and not when everything runs well, because when everything runs well, you will hear nobody.
Yeah.
But if you have a full outage, well, then I'm sure that the IT manager and the CIO definitely need to explain to the board like what is going on, but also what is the plan to get it up and running. And I think more and more companies see that being in control then of your own platform and your own organization, fixing it with the right support, of course, is the answer to most of those situations.
So, like you mentioned, I know you mentioned kind of different customer scenarios already, but focusing more on the customer side of things, can you give a kind of compelling example of a customer who significantly improved their market position by adopting private cloud?
Yeah, it's, to be honest, it's like improve their market position is a very big phrase. So what I can share, for example, is that is an example of one of our healthcare companies. So that healthcare company was already a couple of years ago in a vision like we need to embrace the private cloud because we see that the private cloud will become relevant for us in the long run. So they did a big investment a couple of years ago already, but they didn't stop after deploying. So it's a very good thing because what we see too many times is that after deployment of a private cloud, companies then often think, like, okay, now we're done. Then it starts. So when you talk about automation, when you talk about self-service, when you talk about those kinds of things, that is where the value is of your platform. Like running a data center somewhere is not not that exciting. It's about what do you do on top to make sure that your business teams can make use of those resources, the entire platform that you built. And I think this healthcare organization was very eager to make sure that they got the most out of self-service. So a lot of their first to IT, so they provided their self-service services towards their IT organization. But when that was done, they provided it also to research department. They provided it to all different kind of departments within the hospital, which meant that they, in the end, like saved 50 to 60% of their tasks that IT was doing before, but now is being done actually by the automation of the tool and just clicking a person on the self-service option to launch a VM or to ask for something else. And what you see now is that this customer is now, I was there like a week or 6 ago, and they are now more on the line of, okay, we also get a lot of requests from the hospital now to do more with containerization. So how are we going to do that? And there the answer was quite simple, like you can use the same platform and we make sure that you can add it to your self-service portal so that your users, your business users can also easily like add or ask for a container instead of a VM or something else. Just because they have their need, and it makes sure that when you once have built the fundament, you can build upon that fundament. And I think that's a thing that is so many times that I've seen that the customer is building a platform, but then afterwards, where you actually need to get the results out of it, and you need to get the business case ready that you made, they stop. And they don't invest further in monitoring. They don't invest further in automation. They don't invest further in self-service. Yeah, and then I understand that the public cloud is more easy because there you have this full self-service where you can click on any service that you want to buy. But you can do that also in the private cloud if you do it right. So that's.
Yeah, I think what's part of that answer is that, and was one of my follow-up questions is, like, how does private cloud adoption impact business agility and responsiveness to market shifts? I think there's kind of two answers to, or two parts of that question you already answered. Like, first one being, IT is now able to focus on innovation and also into improving the services, like the self-services, expanding the self-service portfolio, their service catalog, etc. But I think a second point you addressed, which is really important, is that although containerization and offering modern applications on the same private cloud platform is not new. It's not a new
No.
concept. I mean, Kubernetes as a container orchestration project became 10 years old last year. So it's not new, but we're now seeing customers that are, and I would say traditional, but are kind of more conservative when it comes to adopting new technology, are now also able to do so because of their private cloud strategy, right? So
Yeah.
it helps you to enable innovation faster,
Yeah.
or adopt new ways of deploying technology faster.
Yeah, and again, it is very much related to the workloads that you have.
Yeah.
Like if you're a startup company and you're born in the cloud and everything that you run is being modern from day one, I can very much understand that your main focus on public cloud and is mainly on speed. Startups is mostly about speed, go to market, that kind of stuff. Time to market of new features, that kind of stuff. Yeah, that's a totally different situation than the business, for example, that we are mostly in, which is mostly the enterprise world. So what is the reason that ING now chose for a long-term vision on the private cloud? Because ING has also a lot of workloads that they see like, we are not going to get this to a public cloud in the next 10 years. So then we better invest in the private cloud so that we have the most lookalike, let's say, feeling to a private cloud solution, or a public cloud solution, sorry. Yeah, that.
Yeah, I think, and we in the previous episode we talked about risks.
Yeah.
And one of the things that companies quite oftenly are not kind of overseeing is that take a financial.
Yeah.
Going full on public cloud.
Yeah.
And hosting their services at, like, for instance, AWS.
Yeah.
And now a couple of years ago, suddenly AWS becomes a mortgage bank and becomes a financial institute as well. And now your cloud hoster, your public cloud hoster, your hyperscaler becomes one of your competitors as well. And
predictability.
Yeah, and
Here we have it again.
and has they have your data. They run your core applications. Yeah, it's. I think that's definitely a great point there.
Yeah.
Now let's get a little bit more edgy,
Okay.
because I am looking for another opinion of yours.
Oei.
So, in your opinion, what's the hardest truth organizations must confront when considering private cloud adoption for competitive advantage?
That's a difficult question. What is it exactly that you mean with it?
Right. So, if customers are considering private cloud adoption for a competitive advantage,
Yeah.
so they're going to use the private cloud for the next phase in their own kind of what's next, their own innovation drift, their own next step. What's the hardest truth that organizations must confront? What's the maybe the biggest hurdle, or the biggest misconception, or the one thing they don't see that they all have to face?
Well, I think a misconception, like what is a mistake that often is being thought, is about the financial model. Most companies think like, yeah, but when I have my private cloud, then I have those capex spikes that I need to invest up front, and I want to have it on a monthly basis. Like everything nowadays is possible when you're talking about or private cloud or public cloud. So let me start with saying that is not longer, I think, a discussion, or it should not be a discussion in that sense. I think, and I already said it, I think in this discussion before, I think organizations need to be willing to invest in the people and process side. So you need to understand that building a private cloud for a competitive advantage, but having the right people with the right skills and the right mindset with the right processes, that's what in the end brings the value. Yeah, and simple as that, to be honest, in my opinion. So the competitive advantage is for me not only technology, because it's mostly in the heads of people, right? So the people make the technology in the end work. And I think in that's an advantage in your private cloud, because there you can control it yourself. You have the own saying about it, and you have you can create your plan around it. So yeah, that's more or less. But yeah, it is an investment, of course. It is an investment, and it is also the question, I think, to companies like, how do you see IT? Do you see IT as a business partner, or do you see IT in the end as a cost center?
Yeah.
And if you see it as a cost center, then I understand a lot of the transitions that has been done over the 5 years. But I think IT can be a business partner, definitely.
Business partner, business enabler, and even like if you do it right, it can make a difference.
Definitely.
Yeah. Okay, so before I let you go, I got one final question.
Yeah.
And that's kind of like the call to action side of things. So if there is one message you would deliver to a CEO who's skeptical about investing in private cloud, what would it be?
Call us. Nee, I'm kidding. Nee. Like, do some own research. So take the time to maybe speak to your peers also, and do some research, do some benchmarking, do some real research for yourself. Like, what is important for us from a strategy perspective? How do we look to IT in that sense? So how important is the role of IT? And if that role is significant of IT, then I think it's definitely worth it to consider a very good, research on what is then the best path for us. And don't get maybe too much spoiled by all kinds of vendors or people telling like this is the best route that you need to take. Because often those parties or people don't even know like the real workloads as you're running or the real situation of your IT department. So I think it's worth it to start with a good research and make a good plan based on your situation. Like, what is the best strategy and how do we move forward?
Awesome. Well, some great advice. Thom, thanks so much for being part and joining us in the Private Cloud Cafe. Thank you so much for watching. If you have questions about private cloud, you know where to find us. You can drop us an email to info@itq.eu. For now, thanks so much for watching, and we'll see you in the next Private Cloud Cafe.